Now we're talking to Patrick McGeoghegan. He's from Epilepsy Ireland and he's the Advocacy and Communications Manager. You're very welcome to Disability Matters.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me, and good to talk to you and your listeners.
Great to get to talk to you. Now, epilepsy, you might tell us a bit about it, what it is, and the symptoms.
Yeah, so epilepsy is, I suppose, the medical definition of it is the tendency to have repeated seizures in the brain. Now, John, the first time I heard that, it kind of went over my head. It was very, very medical speak. So one of the team here at Epilepsy Ireland, in order to help people understand the condition a bit more, I use a series of analogies. And my go-to one is to think we're obviously chatting on Zoom today, so we're on a computer. So my go-to one is to think of a computer crashing and rebooting. So if this computer was to crash, it would start behaving differently. All of a sudden, the screen might go blank, but with time, care, and attention, you get it back to normal. So think of that happening in the brain before, during, and after a seizure. So we use that as, I suppose, as I say, our go-to analogy to help people understand the condition a little bit more. In terms of the symptoms, the symptoms are the seizures. So, and there can be many, many different types of seizures. Something that people don't realize is not just falling to the ground and shaking. There can be types of seizures where a person is fully upright and I suppose behaving oddly, for the want of a better word. They could be smacking their lips, could be pulling at their clothes, but again, it's still a very serious type of seizure. And I suppose just the final thing I would say about epilepsy is that it's an incredibly common condition. Over 45,000 people living with epilepsy in Ireland, and that's a figure that is quite striking to a lot of people when they hear it for the first time. There is this perception that epilepsy is rare. I'm here to say that nothing could be further from the truth. There is people within your close circle of family, friends, colleagues, teammates who are living with the condition. So that's certainly something we'd like to address here today.
Is it genetic?
It can be. I suppose something we would also highlight in terms of causes. Like there can be causes. Genetic, you're right in saying, is one of the causes. It can be caused by a brain injury or stroke. But I suppose what we do tend to highlight and focus in on more than the actual causes is that in 50% of cases, there's no known cause. So I think that kind of highlights, in addition, how epilepsy can come forward at any stage of a person's life. And again, it's one of those misconceptions out there about the condition, that it's something you're born with or it's something that has a known cause. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And as I say, in 50% of cases, there is no known cause.
You spoke about epileptic fits and so on and so on. There's a lot of misconceptions around them and how to treat them.
Yeah. And one of our big, I suppose, awareness campaigns and one of our continuing sort of public information campaigns is all about how to correctly respond to a seizure. And we've developed this since 2021, actually, where we realized we were telling people more not what not to do rather than what to do. So that's why we developed time safe stay, and that is what you should do if you respond to a seizure or witness a person having a seizure. So we have a short version, a slightly longer version, and then a very long version of it. So I'll start
short version is good.
Yeah. So short is time the seizure, keep the person safe, and stay with them. That's exactly what you need to do when you witness a person having a seizure. And do you want me to go into the longer version?
No. You might tell us a couple of the don'ts.
The don'ts. So so basically, one of the don'ts is you can't stop a person from having a seizure. So just to bear that in mind, particularly with what they call the tonic-clonic seizures. So I think that's seizures that people are more familiar with, where a person falls to the ground and then is jerking, and their muscles are jerking involuntarily, the quite dramatic version of a seizure. There's a misconception that a person will swallow their tongue. That's one of those myths. Do not put anything in a person's mouth during a seizure. And another big one is that you need to restrain the person during their seizure. Again, big misconception, and you can't stop the person from having a seizure, and pinning them down or trying to stop them from making those movements. You're going to hurt them or hurt themselves. So they're the two biggest don'ts, really. I suppose just want to highlight on the end of that, like, is the importance of I suppose, if you're not sure, call an ambulance as well. It's something we will always highlight as part of it. Yes, like, we want people to know time safe stay. Yes, we want people to know that there is a way to respond to a seizure. But if you're in any doubt, call an ambulance, and not the person themselves or the ambulance servants is not going to be given out to you for concern of a fellow person.
And tell me this, are there markers for seizures? Are there things to look out for with people with who you know have epilepsy?
By markers, you mean identifications or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there can be.
Things to look out for in their, how they act or whatever.
Yeah, well, like, again, it depends on the type of seizure. So the like, and it depends on the person as well. So some people with epilepsy will get what they call an aura. And again, this is me relaying stuff I've heard from people living with the condition. Where almost they get an overwhelming sense of dread and anxiety almost, and they know something's about to come on. Again, some people have that, some people don't. So obviously, it's beneficial in the sense that if that person feels it coming along, they can potentially take preventative measures to get themselves safe, to alert someone who's close by, even if it's a second, say, listen, I think I'm about to have a seizure. Other people, it can, and again, in inverted commas, can then be that more dramatic, where they get no warning at all and drop, and then you are responding. As I say, in terms, it's not necessarily a marker, but it's a person in the seizure. And those types of seizures where I said they could be behaving oddly, for the want of a better word. You know, it's important for people to be aware that the person in that type of seizure could actually be fully upright and not really aware of their surroundings. As I say, could have been pulling at the clothes, marking the lips. And you know, the danger of that type of seizure is they could be walking out onto a busy road and not actually be conscious of it. So again, I suppose it's to take that extra step, because often in those types of seizures, the issue is that we hear is that people are often perceived as being drunk or on drugs, and like, obviously that's I suppose I don't really need to explain about why that could be disparaging for the person, but it is to take that extra second and just go, maybe not make that assertion, and ask yourself, is that person okay? And then, you know, if you see some of those characteristics, then get to work with time safe stay as well. Just to mention as well, John, obviously all our seizure first aid information is up on our website, www.epilepsy.ie, and there's posters as well that people can download, that they can save to their phone. They can print them and put them up in their offices or workplace or school or wherever else it may be, and we can send them out to them as well. So yeah, epilepsy.ie is the oracle of all information. If anyone listening there wants to
it's
check
actually
it out.
full of information, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Go on. What about treatment?
Treatment, most commonly through what we call anti-seizure medications. So tablets, basically. But what we'd often highlight is that epilepsy is an incredibly individual condition, and the treatment is equally incredibly individual. So hypothetically speaking, John, say myself and yourself are living with epilepsy. We have the same type of epilepsy. It doesn't necessarily mean our treatment journeys are going to be the same. People respond differently to different medications. And like, sometimes it can take a combination of different medications to actually become seizure free. And another kind of factor with the use of anti-seizure medications is that I suppose, for the one about, they can be blunt instruments, in the sense that they're obviously targeting activity in the brain, trying to harness that, I suppose, electroactivity that causes seizures. So they do have side effects, and sometimes the side effects can be really, really challenging for people. And again, it's for clinicians, it's finding that balance, trying to get the person seizure free, but also trying to manage the side effects and the medications. Listen, to flip that on the positive side as well, is that in up to 70% of cases where the right treatment is identified, a person will become seizure free. Obviously, for the other 30%, the condition's more difficult to treat, and seizures a bit more regular throughout their life. So I suppose, just because a person is seizure free doesn't mean it's been an easy route to get there, and it can be very, very challenging I suppose it can be a term we would often use is that it can be trial and error as well. For even for the experts that's working in the field, every case is treated as an individual. Um, so it is complex in terms of other treatments as well. Like there's something called the VNS, which is it's a medical device implant which shoots kind of, and it can sense seizure coming on, and it tries to regulate it almost. So that's a kind of almost surgical implant. Then there is brain surgery as well, which again would be probably used in the more extreme cases, but I think it's getting more and more common, where they actually target the part of the brain that has the seizure activity, and remove parts of it, which is just incredible type of treatment, and more people are having that experience. I think the brain doctors on Virgin Media recently kind of caused a lot of it, or sorry, caused a lot of it, intrigue and interest as a result. And there was kind of like an epilepsy patient featured in that, and phenomenal results, touch wood so far for her. So hopefully more and more people can benefit from that in the future as well.
That's a fantastic development.
Yeah,
Um, what kind of
huge.
advice would you give to a person with epilepsy who wants to drive, go to work, take
Yeah,
alcohol, etc.?
yeah. Like, listen, we're not in terms of driving. Obviously, listen, there's a very strict. You need to be a year seizure free before you start driving,
Right.
and that's totally understandable. In terms of the risk, in terms of like safety of other road users and stuff as well. But as I said, there people do become seizure free and can drive. Thankfully now we have with the campaign around free travel as well, and at least for people who are off the road, due to their epilepsy, can now avail of free travel thanks to sort of a campaign through ourselves, and a long-standing advocacy campaign. So at least that blow is softened to a certain extent. Um, in terms of alcohol, in terms of triggers, like definitely the recommendation would be trying not to. But listen, we know life is the way it is. Young people
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
will certainly go out and have a drink. Sometimes it's understanding that risk is there, and managing your intake as well. The thing about I suppose things that can impact on condition, much like I suppose the treatment, individual triggers are learned as you go as well. So like some of the common ones we would hear is kind of tiredness, alcohol, as you mentioned, is one there. Stress, anxiety can all lead to seizures for people, but there's not a like people approaching our services. We can't go to them say, listen, your seizures will be triggered by X, Y, and Z. It's something that person learns as they go along. What we can do is give them the information to say, listen, these are common seizure triggers. You need to be conscious of them. And again, sort of coming back to the alcohol one, I think everyone or plenty of people listening will have a sense of how maybe a few drinks will make them feel very tired. They feel off color. They'll like, and a person with epilepsy that could then trigger seizures. So that's where there's the risk. Again, all information on that outlined on the website as well, www.epilepsy.ie, for anyone who might be listening in who might have received a diagnosis or is managing their own condition. We're here to help.
If there's a parent listening and they've just had, or their child has just had a diagnosis,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, I suppose for this and the last one, I think the main thing to say is get in touch. We're here to help, here to provide support and information. We're non-medical now. We always highlight that. We don't give medical advice. That's for the clinicians and the experts to do. But what we are here to do is navigate the day-to-day living with epilepsy. Because unfortunately, the way medical services are, just clinicians are not able to go through the level of detail that people need. We can advise on entitlements, advise on how to approach telling, advise on like helping manage the child as they begin their journey with condition. We've loads of different bits and pieces and events. Like for example, we would do school talks for teachers and stuff where that child might be going into school. And actually, one of our recent developments is we now have a youth resource officer as well, which again is trying to get young people with epilepsy, starting from age 8, linked in with other kids living with epilepsy. So showing them they're not on their own, but also having a bit of fun with it. But the whole kind of ethos of it is to make that child more comfortable with their condition from an early age, rather than making it hidden, rather than making it something that they shouldn't talk about. So from, I suppose, the theory is in the future, whenever they're adults, they'll be much more comfortable about disclosing their epilepsy. Will be much more involved in the sort of self-management of it as well, and be sort of partners in their healthcare rather than passengers, I suppose. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting developments on that front. So again, our services section of the website, and I suppose just to go back to the short answer, for someone who's newly diagnosed, get in touch. We're here to help. We can talk you through. And it is tough. One of the first things that I will say to people, that who happen to be put through to myself, will be like, listen, I'm sorry that this has happened. Obviously, no one wants to be living with epilepsy, but we're there to show that you can live a full and happy life. There can be ups and downs on the journey. One of the kind of analogies I would use at times as well is that some people, it can be a smooth motorway. Other people, it's an old country boring with potholes plenty and twists and turns. It's just, no one has that crystal ball, and that can be one of the most difficult parts. And just to say, actually, John, too, I'm actually talking to you now during National Epilepsy Week.
Very good.
So it's, we have stories all up on the website of the lived experience of epilepsy, and anything I say can't compare to these stories. So it's well worth a look to kind of, I suppose, see examples of what I've just after saying.
Now, if we get on to the organisation itself, epilepsy.ie, when did that come on stream, and do you know a bit about the history?
Yeah, so we were set up in 1966, so we're around quite a while now at this point. So it is, I suppose, our vision is to achieve a society where no person's life is limited by epilepsy, and we kind of work towards that vision in a number of sort of key organizational aims. First and foremost, and the most important, is the support and information services we provide to people with epilepsy and their families. So that's kind of what I talked about previously, but that's a service that is dotted all across the country. It's coordinated by our what we call our community resource officers, and as I say, they're there to help people on the living with epilepsy, the journey with the condition. I suppose it's a service that's really, really dependent upon, because it experiences in and around 20,000 contacts per year. And those contacts vary in nature and complexity, but are all there to kind of support people in living with the condition. The next strand of our work will be our training and education programs. So this is not only for people with epilepsy and their families, but for the wider community as well. So for an example of that, would be our epilepsy awareness and administration of buccal midazolam course, which we do with professionals all across Ireland. So teachers, SNAs, allied healthcare professionals, basically on how to support and integrate a child with epilepsy, for example, in the classroom. And that's certified training for 2 years. So we train in around 3,000 professionals per year in that. Then we have our awareness and advocacy campaigns. I suppose I've talked about time safe stay, the public education around that, and the information. So that would be kind of one of our key awareness campaigns. I'm talking to you during National Epilepsy Week, where we're sharing stories of the lived experience of epilepsy to try and raise awareness of the condition and increase understanding of it. So again, that's a key area of our work. Our advocacy campaigns, say we always want to achieve positive policy changes for people with epilepsy. The free travel I mentioned there was something we led on for a number of years, but we don't rest on our laurels, really. We've now moved on to new stuff. We're trying to develop new campaigns and achieve more for people with epilepsy. A quick example of that, just given we had an event in it recently, was we want to get epilepsy added to the chronic disease management program, which we feel would be beneficial not only for people with epilepsy, but for healthcare professionals. Would help GPs manage epilepsy in the community, and also will take pressure off specialist services. And again, finally, one of our other key areas of work is investing in epilepsy research. So since 2009, we've invested 1.5 million in a range of epilepsy research projects. Actually, it comes at an exciting time that I'm talking to you, because we are going through the process of hiring a research officer to sort of lead out in that, because we don't actually have a personnel presence within the organization at the minute. It's kind of done between myself and our CEO, and kind of having that presence will help enhance our activities in this area, and hopefully expand on it as well. And we're also preparing for our 9th research funding call at the minute as well. If people do flick onto the website, they'll see that we're seeking feedback from people with epilepsy and their families about what they think we should invest in, because we'll always be led by the people we represent, and there's no point in us investing in a research project that people with epilepsy turn around to us and say, well, we don't actually care about that, we want to see you doing this. So that's what we're doing at the minute. So hopefully we'll expand on that 1.5 million in the very near future, over the next year or so, and keep expanding it in the years ahead to learn more about epilepsy, develop potential treatments, and as we mentioned, maybe causes as well. So that's us very, very quickly in a nutshell, John. I've given a couple of random examples there in terms of the pieces of work in isolation. There's much more to each of them. As I say, all stepped out on our website. So there is something there for everyone. So do go and have a look if you want to learn more about us at www.epilepsy.ie.
One thing I saw on the website, which I thought was very interesting, was seizure first aid.
Yeah. So
what's that about?
So that's basically hooking into our time safe day. So it's basically how people need to respond correctly to a seizure. As I mentioned at the start, over 45,000 people living with epilepsy in Ireland. So hugely, vitally important information to be aware of. And on our website, you'll see how to correctly respond to a seizure. Has those posters, as I mentioned, and has those 3 key words of time, safe, stay. So time the seizure, keep the person safe, stay with them. So yeah, that's a very important section of the website that people need to go on to and have a look.
And tell me this now, we're right at the end of our time. Is there anything else you'd like to put out there before we go?
No, just obviously we are a charity organisation. I've kind of referred to some of the work we do. That wouldn't be possible without the support of the public. If you are in a position to do so, we'd certainly appreciate any donation that people can give. $5 or $10, whatever it may be, it will go to good work. And we desperately need it as well. As I say, we are a charity organisation. We do get state funding, but it's in around 50 to 60% each year. So there's a big gap there that we have to make up each year to help support our work, to help continue that vital service that responds to 20,000 contacts each year. So if people do like what they've heard, do like, I suppose, the work we've heard, flick onto the website and see that we're doing a lot and hopefully achieving a lot. Please help us out if you can. It certainly would appreciate it.
One thing I forgot to ask you, have you any fundraisers coming up very shortly?
It's more actually we've just passed our biggest fundraising day of the year.
Okay.
But certainly what we're referring to at the minute is community fundraisers. So basically, because we are a small team, the amount it is incredible. The amount of people who come forward saying, I'm going to do a coffee morning, or I'm going to do a walk, or do a 10K for Epilepsy Ireland is phenomenal. And that is led by people just, I suppose, picking up the phone, getting in touch, saying, I want to do this for you. We'll try and support you as best we can. And if it raises 100, 200, 300, whatever it may be, it's massive for us. So listen, the weather's good. So if you're thinking about ahead to the summer, which I think we all are at the minute, certainly we would appreciate any support you can give, be it through those ideas I mentioned, or your own ideas as well. And probably the next biggest thing we have coming up in terms of fundraisers is a lot of people taking on marathons and stuff for us. So VHI is coming up as well. We're blessed to have so many supporters out there. Just taking it on for Epilepsy Ireland. It'd be great. I have my uniform on today, as you'll see.
I saw that.
I'm representing. So we'll have heaps of these on the VHI Women's Mini Marathon. We'll have the Cork Marathon, Mini Marathon or Marathon.
Marathon.
Certainly coming up marathon. I think it's the 1st of June as well. Again, have supporters done. I've signed up for that. So listen, we're open to all and any ideas in terms of fundraisers. And as I say, welcome any support that people can give us.
And lastly, just give out the website one more time, please.
So it's www.epilepsy.ie, Epilepsy Ireland, and we're on literally every single social media channel, John, as Epilepsy Ireland. So give us a follow. You'll see some of the work we do and some of the bits and pieces we feature. And yeah, just to give the number as well, it's our head office is 01455 and info@epilepsy.ie. So plenty of ways to get in touch. So if you do want to get in touch, please do.
Paddy, thanks for talking to Disability Matters.
Thank you, John. Pleasure.
It's great to talk to you. Thank you.